The simpler the food, the likely the healthier the food for you. Convenience foods and convenience packaging are useful at times, but living a life of convenience food just sets us up. It sets us up to have dysfunction wherever the weak link in our chain is. Here's the way to get the big picture about intestinal permeability. Permeability is not bad for you. It's how we absorb our vitamins and minerals. It's excessive permeability that's bad for you. Intestinal permeability is normal. Excessive intestinal permeability is abnormal. So what does that mean? Your intestines are a tube. The tube is 20-25 feet long, starts at the mouth, goes to the other end, kind of winds around in the abdomen, twists around in there. The inside, if you think of your intestines like a donut, and if you could just stretch the donut out, and you look down the hole of the donut, it's one big long donut, right? It's one big long tube. So when we eat food, it's not yet in our body, it's in the donut. Right? And it's got to go through the walls of the donut to get into the bloodstream so we can use the vitamins and minerals to make new brain cells and muscle cells and all of that. The inside of the tube is lined with shag carpeting. Big, thick shags of carpeting. They're called the villi and the microvilli. The microvilli are coated with a cheesecloth. And our grandmothers used to pour gravy into a cheesecloth, and the liquid would come through, and the clumps of flour and stuff that didn't break down would stay on the other side. So the gravy was very smooth to pour on the pot roast and everything. You know, that's cheesecloth. Our shags in the intestines have cheesecloth. That's why your intestines are 20 to 25 feet long. One reason is because some foods break down really quickly. Other foods take a long time to break down. They have to go further down the intestines. Proteins are like a pearl necklace. Hydrochloric acid made in your stomach undoes the clasp of the pearl necklace. Now you have a string of pearls. Our enzymes act as scissors to break off each pearl of the pearl necklace. They're called amino acids. They're really tiny little pearls, and they go right through the cheesecloth into the bloodstream. Bigger clumps of pearls can't get through the cheesecloth. They have to go further down the intestines to be broken down small enough to get through the cheesecloth into the bloodstream. That's how we absorb our vitamins, our minerals, our proteins, our fats, is that they get broken down until they're small enough to go right through the cheesecloth, okay? What happens when humans eat wheat? Every human that eats wheat, not just the celiacs, but every human that eats wheat gets tears in the cheesecloth every time they're exposed to wheat. But we have an entire new body every 7 years, right? Some cells turn over very quickly, like the inside lining of the gut. Every 3 to 7 days, you have a whole new lining to your gut. It's like the skin of a snake, just kind of sheds right off. And some cells, like your bone cells, are very slow to rebuild. So every 7 years, you have a new body. So you eat wheat, you tear the cheesecloth, but it heals. Fastest growing cells in the body. So you had toast for breakfast, it heals. You have a sandwich for lunch, it heals. Pasta for dinner, it heals. Croutons on your salad, it heals. A cookie, but it heals day after week after month after year after year after year, until one day you don't heal anymore. Now, when you don't heal, you get tears in the cheesecloth. That's pathogenic intestinal permeability. Now what happens, you've got these pearl necklaces of food being clipped into small pieces, going down the tube of the intestines, down the donut, all the way until they're small enough to go through the cheesecloth. But now some of these larger clumps of food get through the tears in the cheesecloth into the bloodstream. They're not supposed to. They're called macromolecules, big molecules. They're not supposed to get through, but tears in the cheesecloth occur, and these tears in the cheesecloth can occur and stay torn when you lose tolerance and you don't heal anymore when you're 2 years old, 22 years old, 72 years old. It just depends on when you cross that threshold as to when this happens, but it happens for everyone. So now you've got the tears in cheesecloth that don't heal, the macromolecules get through into the bloodstream, and your immune system says, whoa, What's this? This is not something that's good for me. I better fight this. I can't make new brain cells or new muscle cells out of this raw material. I better fight this. And now you make antibodies to that macromolecule. And if it was a tomato, now you're sensitive to tomatoes. Or now you're sensitive to chicken. Or now you're sensitive to beef or to bananas. It doesn't matter what it is. If you get macromolecules getting into the bloodstream, your immune system trying to protect you says, I gotta fight this thing. This is not good for me. That's the person that gets a 90 food IgG blood test done for sensitivities and it comes back, they're sensitive to 20, 25 foods. They say, oh my God, that's everything I eat. Of course it is. Your immune system's trying to protect you. So you don't shut down the immune system. You stop throwing gasoline on the fire and allow the tears in the cheesecloth to heal. Then, 6 months to a year later, you do the blood test again. Now you're sensitive to 2 foods, maybe 3. So you want to have a healthy environment of your gut. That's called the microbiome, because when you have a bad environment, you tear the cheesecloth just because of a bad environment in your gut. Right? So it's not only wheat that tears the cheesecloth, there are many, many things. GMO foods will tear the cheesecloth. The glyphosate and the inert ingredients in Roundup will tear the cheesecloth. Chlorine will tear the cheesecloth. There are many, many different compounds that can tear the cheesecloth. We just know for a fact that all humans tear the cheesecloth when they eat wheat, every time they eat wheat. So when you cross that threshold, and you can't compensate anymore and heal the cheesecloth, then you get pathogenic intestinal permeability. Remember, intestinal permeability is normal, but excessive permeability is not. So now you get pathogenic intestinal permeability. It gets into your bloodstream. Your body makes antibodies to that food, whatever it is. And then there's a mechanism called cross-reactivity. So let's take the example of wheat. The most common clump of the pearl necklace that your immune system will make antibodies to is 33 amino acids long. And every laboratory in the world will check for that one to see if you make antibodies to that. There are many other clumps of the pearl necklace, and most labs don't check the others, which they should. We know there's 62 different clumps of the pearl necklace in wheat that have been identified that the immune system may react to, but every lab checks for the big one, the 33. So if you have antibodies to that 33 amino acid peptide, it's called a peptide, I'm going to refer to it as AABCD. Now it's 33 letters long, but let's just say AABCD. So now you have the antibodies going through your bloodstream looking for AABCD. Over there, and they're firing these chemical bullets to destroy this macromolecule that's in your bloodstream. What our immunologists tell us is that it only takes 8 amino acids of the 33, only 8. That sequence of the 8 amino acids of the 33 that the antibodies are being made to, that when your blood's going past the thyroid, for example, the surface of the thyroid facing the bloodstream as the blood's going by, the surface of the thyroid facing the bloodstream is made up of proteins and fats. Proteins are made up of a lot of amino acids, hundreds of amino acids. Some of the amino acid sequences in the surface of the thyroid facing the bloodstream include AABCD, 8 amino acids of AABCD. So the antibodies that are looking for the wheat molecules in your bloodstream see the thyroid, oh, look over there, and they fire a chemical bullet at AABCD on the surface of your thyroid facing the bloodstream. That's called molecular mimicry. When our antibodies to wheat fire a chemical bullet at the thyroid in this example, or your brain cells, I mean the studies are very clear on this stuff that it happens, or your brain cells, when it fires a chemical bullet, it damages that thyroid cell. Now, the immune system makes thyroid antibodies in general to clean up the old thyroid cells, right? So you get rid of the old thyroid cells to make room for new cells to grow. That's why you have a normal level of antibodies to your brain and to your thyroid and your heart, because we're getting rid of the old damaged cells, making room for new cells to grow. It's a kind of a washout process, right? And that's normal. But now you've got these extra antibodies to AABCD going after the thyroid. Now you make it more antibodies to your thyroid to get rid of these extra damaged cells, right? And that's not a problem, except You had toast for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner, croutons on your salad. There's gluten in the makeup, in lipstick that you use, in your shampoo. So you're getting exposure day after week after month after year after year after year. And if the weak link in your chain is your thyroid, it's going after your thyroid. The antibodies to wheat are also going after your thyroid. You make more thyroid antibodies to get rid of those damaged cells, and it's called a self-perpetuating mechanism. At some point, it continues on its own. Now you develop Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroid disease. That's why there are so many studies that say when you get off of wheat, your thyroid antibodies may go down. That's the mechanism. And it's the same mechanism for the brain. It's the same mechanism for the heart. That's why the studies I referred to earlier, Mayo Clinic with cardiomyopathy and irregular heartbeats, get them off wheat and their cardiomyopathy calms down and their heart starts functioning better. If we just wake up to this and we start checking for it, remember, body language never lies. You just have to learn how to speak body. So you have to have the laboratory tests that are properly looking to see, is this going on for you? And if it's going on, okay, then let's see why it's going on. And then you get rid of the trigger, the gasoline on the fire. And then many times, not always, but many times, the rheumatoid arthritis calms down. The psoriasis calms down. The lupus calms down. The migraines calm down. The attention deficit that children suffer with, calm down. In the Journal of Attention Disorders in 2006, they took 130 kids with gluten sensitivity and attention deficit. They put them on a gluten-free diet. Every child or their parents, all 130 of them or their parents reported significant, that's the big word, significant improvement in all 12 attention deficit markers. Fails to pay attention, interrupts frequently, blurts out answers, can't sit still. Every marker improved in every child within 6 months on a wheat-free diet.